Welcome. If you're still finding a good seat, go ahead and find a seat. Welcome to this service, a celebration of the life of Bob Zeigen. It is good for us to be here together on this beautiful day, in this special place, for this sad and very important occasion. Death has called us together, and we have come to say goodbye to one we have loved as people have always gathered in all times and places and cultures. And we have been called by love for Bob Zeigen and for his family. We come together today bringing many things with us, bringing wonderful memories, bringing sadness, bringing a sense of loss and our own fears and sorrows and grief. We bring also the many ideas, faiths, and practices which inspire and sustain us. And here we weave them into a harmony of wisdom and courage and strength. We have come to undertake the essential human work of transitioning from Bob as a living presence in our lives to a remembered presence in our minds and hearts. We each have been given a life, a circle of days. Generation follows generation so that life endures, the circles repeating. And within that circle, between birth and death, there is that mysterious and enlivening force which animates us and every living thing. We call this power by many different names, if we name it at all. Life, creative force, spirit of life, and simply love. Like a flame passing from candle to candle, this great power is passed from generation to generation. It is the unity of the whole of creation, past, present, and future. Each and every life is holy because it is a part of this great progression. Behind all of our differences and beneath all of our diversity, it is this unity which makes us one, which binds us together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We light our chalice this afternoon in honor of this great and powerful unifying force, which is life. Bob's family has chosen a reading to share, attributed to Chief Tecumseh. So live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view and demand that they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of its vision. when it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. May it be so. Bob's children, Laura and Coleman, are going to share their remembrances.
I get to go first because I'm the oldest. Yeah. We are here today because of a blueberry cheesecake. Specifically, my parents met, and Coleman and I exist because of a blueberry cheesecake. Mom and Dad met at a mutual friend's party in 1968. Captain Ed Fackler worked at the same base as Dad. Ed was also a family friend of Mom's, as their fathers knew each other through the Los Angeles 8mm Club. Ed's party was on her calendar, but she had had an exhausting day teaching her large 5th grade class and did not have energy to trek across Los Angeles. However, she promised Ed a blueberry cheesecake when he returned from Vietnam, and she'd already made it, so she went. The rest, they say, is history. But the story goes deeper than that. Dad felt many things had to happen for them both to be in Los Angeles at that time and place. I think of it as a version of the butterfly effect, which the Decision Lab defines as a property of our incredibly complex, deeply interconnected world, such that one small occurrence can influence a much larger complex system. My dad called these forks in the road. In the spring of 1946, Dad was a senior at Brooklyn's Boys High, co-manager of the track team and aiming to attend Rhode Island State College, Cornell, or Lehigh to pursue his long-held dream of electrical engineering. Describing his mindset, he said, "I just wanted to get out of the city. I needed more space and fewer people." His desire for more space and fewer people was well-founded. He grew up in Brooklyn in a 4-story brownstone with his parents, maternal grandparents, 2 to 3 sets of maternal aunts, uncles, and cousins, and his brother Louis. There were 10 to 14 people living there in the brownstone at any one time, some adult children moving back in, including Dad's parents due to job loss right before the Depression. Dad was 10 before his parents and brother finally had the 3rd floor to themselves. Because everyone pooled resources, Dad never felt poor, but found this situation challenging as a very private person. By senior year, he wanted out. Rhode Island State College, now in 1946, mind you, right after World War II, now only accepted in-state residents due to the flood of veterans on the GI Bill. And to Dad's surprise, Cornell rejected him. There was only one choice, Lehigh, a private university. To defray the cost of Lehigh, Dad enrolled in the Air Force Reserve Officers Training Corps, ROTC. Enrollees could become a military officer while earning their degree, given they served 4 years active duty afterwards. Dad joined Sigma Alpha Mu, one of 3 Jewish fraternities and full of returning vets. Dad, a mere 17, as he had skipped 2 half years in school, like many freshmen, liberally partook of the party atmosphere. He started strong academically, but was barely passing by the end of sophomore year. His parents suggested he go west that summer to visit Utah relatives Doris and Sam Gus and sort things out. The openness of the West was a revelation to Dad. On the train to Utah, he was overwhelmed by the countryside and especially awed by the Rocky Mountains. Next to his cousin's house at the outskirts of town was a gas station, an ice cream shop, but not much else except cherry orchards. As he said, "The air felt clean, the sun shone brightly, but was not warm yet. I felt elated, and like Brigham Young said when the Mormons first entered the valley, this is the place." Dad wrote his parents he wanted to transfer to the University of Utah and that even if not accepted, he wanted to stay. His parents agreed as long as he came home every summer, which he did, mostly by hitchhiking. Yeah, right. Dad, admitted to Utah on probation, was relieved Utah was a smaller financial burden than Lehigh, but he also lived frugally and worked several jobs, including busboy, janitor, and houseboy for the Alpha Delta Pi sorority. He continued ROTC, which provided a small stipend, and when he and 3 friends shared a one-bedroom apartment, they lived as economically as possible, often reusing coffee grounds or cigarette butts. One of these lifelong friends, Harold Jensen, later became instrumental in Mom and Dad moving to Salem. Dad did well, got off probation, majored and graduated in anthropology, and started a 2-year master's in anthropology, after which he wanted to get his PhD elsewhere. However, in the first term of his 2-year master's degree, the Air Force said he needed to report for duty in Lackland, Texas on October 20th, 1952. So he adjusted his thesis, rearranged classes, and finished his master's in 1 year. For those of you who know the years I have done master's degrees, this is like insane. He was assigned to Kelly Air Force Base in Texas in a newly created program, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, or OSI, one of the precursors of our current CIA. His next assignment was again investigations for the OSI, but in the Far East Air Force Office in Tokyo, Japan. People with dependents were assigned 2 to 3 years. By this time, he had dependents, his first wife and 2 children by her British husband, a pilot killed in World War II. So his assignment in Tokyo ended up being 3 years. He loved living in Japan and quickly felt at home there. Upon returning from Japan in 1957, he was finally able to engage in research and development in his assignment at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. He spoke with the team in the physical anthropology lab, liked what they were doing, and was able to get assigned there, something he feels would not have been possible if the team leader had been in town at the time. By the time the team lead got back a few weeks later, Dad was embedded. Dad helped standardize Air Force helmet sizes, measured future astronauts for Mercury capsule seats, and worked in what we now call human factors engineering. The Air Force eventually agreed to support Dad get his PhD in experimental psychology at Purdue University. After completing his PhD in 30 months, that is less than 3 years, he was recruited to LA to work on something called the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, or MOL, and after that program was canceled, on the feeding systems and toilet systems on something called the Space Shuttle. In what was to be his final Air Force assignment from 1973 to 76, again at Wright-Patterson, he was specifically recruited to lead an aerospace biomedical lab of over 300 people. Dad often reflected, if I had gone to some other school and majored in another field more successfully, I might never have gone to Utah or entered the Air Force as an officer. Thus, believing I could be an electrical engineer and going to Lehigh ultimately led me to where I am today. No experience is wasted, even if things don't turn out as you hoped. Dad's Zen approach to life was a constant growing up. When The Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980, we were entranced by Yoda. Dad sometimes spoke like Yoda to us, which we loved. Coleman and I even gave him a Yoda action figure. When Dad started dropping me off at Leslie Middle School on his way to work, he invented my very own Yoda, Bright Blue Frog, who was probably first moved to speak to me in response to some struggle I had as a 12-year-old, either with fellow middle schoolers or myself. Stories included a set of kind, silly, philosophical characters, not unlike the Muppets. Bright Blue's best friend was a mosquito, and he had a red Jewish Peruvian cousin, Rojo. And an elderly frog neighbor, Beatrice. Sometimes they rescued a snail in the forest. Sometimes they sat on their lily pads and contemplated life. Bright Blue also revealed that in frog language, ribbit means shit. Which, of course, titillated my 12-year-old self. It also became a reminder from Bright Blue that shit happens. Sometimes life dumps on you and you can't control it. and you just have to deal with it the best you can. I would hear messages from Bright Blue that I was not about to hear from my parents. Dad's letters to me in college often contained a PS from Bright Blue, offering some observation that was coincidentally useful for some challenge I was facing. For college graduation, Dad gave me a metal candle holder of a blue frog jumping for joy and gave me another one of 2 blue frogs jumping for joy when Alan and I got married. It wasn't just about blue frogs, of course, but how to navigate life and what it throws at you with grace, if not wisdom. Dad's forks in the road eventually brought him to Salem, where he and Mom built a rich life together. Dad often said he felt Salem was just the right size, a place where it was easy to get involved and make a difference, to contribute in a way he wouldn't have been able to in a larger city. After retiring in 1993, his volunteering expanded, including for over 20 years with Mom, driving and delivering a weekly Meals on Wheels route, often becoming friends with people on the routes. He also contributed a lot of time and energy to Friends of Busch Gardens, now Mission Street's Parks Conservancy, and other civic groups. Dad and I discussed forks in the road in relation to conversations I had with his mother after reading Anna Yesierska's book, The Bread Givers, which describes a fictional immigrant Jewish family not unlike our own. Dad developed our family origin story, then his, into the over 200-page, quote, Journal of a Lazy Man. I've read it before, but reading it now has been very therapeutic for processing my grief. I highly recommend writing some reflections about your life. It may be a great comfort to loved ones someday. Dad could not have imagined when setting off for Lehigh what his life would be, but it was most definitely a life well lived, and I am happy I could be part of it. And remember, Bright Blue Frog says, ribbit! That's it.
I get to go second because I'm younger. Just saying. All right, distance. So today, this morning, I trimmed my beard to make my facial hair look like my dad, and I'm wearing his bolo tie, and I'm wearing his class ring from the University of Utah from 1950, and I'm wearing a mostly brown outfit. My wife, Mariah's wearing a brown outfit. My sister's wearing blue. My mom's wearing blue because my dad was in the Air Force for, was it 24 years, 26 years, something like that. And Mom noticed at some point that he always wore either a brown outfit, green is sort of in the brown zone or the blue zone, either way, or so it'd either be a brown or a blue outfit. So this is my brown outfit to represent my dad. So in January of 2020, my parents attended a celebration of life for our dear friend and neighbor, Mike Swaim, whose family is here today. That celebration proved to be quite a gift because our parents started coming to this space and this community for the last number of years with the Unitarian Universalists, and they have found it has given them a great deal of comfort. They've appreciated the friendliness of this community and shared the values of openness and acceptance. So thank you for that. My dad was born into a Jewish family, as Laura suggested. He identified as Jewish, or Jewish, as I wrote in my notes here. Shared cultural practices with our family, such as Passover and Hanukkah, just as part of our upbringing, so we would be exposed to that. And there is a tradition in Jewish culture when someone dies to offer condolences by saying, and I don't think I'll pronounce this correctly, but I will try, Zichrono Livracha, which means may his memory be a blessing. So many of our Jewish relatives sent that as condolence to us, and so I did a little looking up of what others say that this means. It's an expression of comfort and remembrance, as well as a suggestion that the person's positive influence and good deeds will continue to be a source of blessings for others even after their passing. So So I'll talk a little bit about that. My father's public legacy is one of service to his community by fearlessly advocating for what he felt was right, just, and fair. I thought Laura was going to be the weepy one. His legacy to our family was as our protector and as a caregiver and a dedicated family man. So in brief, our dad was a mensch, a person of integrity and honor, or more simply put, just a good guy. Laura talked a little bit about our dad growing up surrounded by a large extended Orthodox, she didn't say this, but an Orthodox Jewish family in Brooklyn, New York. And when I asked him once what his favorite book was as a child, he said Robinson Crusoe, because he dreamed of being alone on a desert island, away from all of the energy and in particular the expectations of his extended family. So at the age of 15, our incredibly responsible and very thoughtful father hitchhiked to Cleveland, Ohio, running away from home. He ran away from home for 2 weeks. He was going to join the Navy. And then in his words, he chickened out. So he went back home. Our grandmother actually showed us a little ad they put in the newspaper that talked about how much they missed him and wished that he would come home. So I'm glad he did. When he returned home after being a runaway for 2 weeks, the pressure from his family subsided. For the remainder of his life, he often repeated these words. He said, "I don't care what you believe, just don't tell me what to believe." And he always was willing to listen to others' beliefs as long as they had no expectation of him having the same beliefs. So in a Statesman Journal article, Laura did great researching every time my dad was mentioned or wrote an editorial. And in an article, he said about himself that he was a man of measured compromise. Sexy. In our household, this translated into him always saying, "Let me think about it." So whenever he was asked to make a decision, Dad was not impulsive. He wanted to evaluate the information, process it, and make an educated decision. And once he had made his decision, he would stand by it and very comfortably argue his point. In fact, at his retirement party for the state of Oregon, one of his coworkers said they didn't know anyone in the office who hadn't had an argument with Bob Zeigen. And Dad said he never took the discussions personally, though some people did. Throughout his life, he felt comfortable arguing his point and relished having friends with different views than his own. Knowing this about my father led me to purposefully pick an argument with him one time. He argued his point, I argued mine, and in the end, he came to see my view and admitted that I had, quote, these are his words, won the argument. And then he sat there with this big smile on his face. And I'm like, "Dad, you love to argue, don't you?" And he was just like, "Yeah." He just loved it. So as much as he loved a good debate, his sense of humor was one of my favorite aspects of my dad. My sister can attest to the fact that I specialized in being an annoying younger brother, and my dad was not immune to my poking and prodding. So once, when I was being a particular nuisance, Dad scared the crap out of me. I was sitting at one end of the couch and like pressing my feet into him, and I don't know, we were watching TV together, and all of a sudden he lunged at me and his hair went in his face, and he said, "I'm the creep! I'm a professional wrestler, and if you don't stop messing with me, you're going down." And so he repeated this move throughout my life, and each time it made me laugh hard and stopped my shenanigans. So, like many good dads, my father also appreciated the satisfactory nature of the classic dad joke. And last year for Dad's 95th birthday, Laura got Dad a joke book of dad jokes. And so he picked up the book and he started looking through it, and he would read the setup to the joke, so the question, and then he'd read the punchline to himself and he would laugh. We didn't know what the punchline was, though. So he's sitting there just reading the setup and then laughing, and reading the setup and laughing. So that was pretty wonderful. So to celebrate Dad, not all of you will be able to participate because they're sort of tucked everywhere. But if you look, if you're sitting not in the front row, but in the second row, about halfway back, in the books, there are tucked little notes. So if you see a little piece of paper tucked in a book, you can pull it out. Those are dad jokes, and you can read a dad joke to someone sitting next to you. So I'll give you a minute to read a dad joke to someone sitting next to you. They're great. They're great. Or if you know a good dad joke or an uncle joke. I just learned what an uncle joke is, too. I'll tell you one later. All right, take a moment. If you're still grabbing them, there's plenty to grab afterward as well, so you can grab more later. So another childhood memory that I have around my dad's sense of humor is I remember how much he enjoyed Mel Brooks movies, particularly Blazing Saddles was a real favorite. His favorite part was Mel Brooks as the Native American chief who spoke Yiddish. And my favorite part was the group of cowboys eating beans, followed by a symphony of flatulence. I love that part. And we just laughed the whole way through. It was great. But Blazing Saddles was not just a comedy. It was also a critique of racism and social norms in the American West and society as a whole. And it takes on themes of prejudice, stereotypes, and manipulation of people for personal gain. So this comedy spoke to my dad's values. He could not abide others putting their individual gains above the greater good of the community. As is apparent in his professional life, his volunteer work, and the many letters to the editor he wrote to the Statesman Journal. When my parents came to Colorado for our wedding in 2019, Mariah found my dad sitting in our living room alone, looking very contemplative, and she said, "Bob, what are you thinking about?" And he said, "Just thinking how hard it used to be for women in our society, and I'm really glad that it's gotten better." Dad was always thinking about the well-being of others. He was really a protector for our family. And last year, our mom had to have surgery, and she returned from the rehabilitation center after 3 weeks, which was the longest our parents had gone not seeing each other for about, 55 years, 57 years, something like that. And so Laura conveyed that Dad held Mom's hand, which they love to do. And I had tears in his eyes. He loved our mom very deeply. So, Mom was a great balance for Dad because she would always say, "Let's do it!" And Dad would always say, "Let me think about it." So a number of years ago, my mother's massage therapist and her former contractor's family, the Holman family, became a big part of our family when they asked our parents to become their kids' surrogate grandparents, which I thought was great because our parents were really made for that, and like picking up Eric and Christine from junior high school. Dad would come, yeah, is that true? Am I getting this right? Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I don't know if he shared any Bright Blue Frog stories with you, though. The last time that I saw Dad was at Thanksgiving. And during that visit, there were two moments that really stuck with me. So by that time, Dad had limited speaking ability. And the first moment was when we were riding up in the elevator, and Dad had kind of this look on his face like, and so I looked at him and I went, ugh. And he went, Urgh. And I was like, the creep. So that was really sweet. That was a really sweet moment. And the other moment was we were waiting for lunch. And Dad was just looking at me, and he had tears welling up in his eyes. And Mariah was there, and she said, "You love your son, don't you?" And it was so clear. And I think I knew that I probably wasn't going to see him again after that. So in December of that year, I was with Mariah and her parents, Diana and Rich, in Kauai, of all places, on the island of Kauai. So beautiful when I found out about Dad's passing. And after I learned about him passing away, I sat for some time thinking, taking in his death, and Mariah suggested we go for a walk. We were not that far from Hanalei Bay, so we went on a walk through tropical forest down to Hanalei Bay. And the water was pretty tumultuous that morning, which was a bit much for me, sort of mirroring my emotions at the time, which were very strong. In the few days that we had been in Kauai, I learned about the tradition of the Aumakua. Aumakua are deceased family members who have attained a divine and status and continue to play a role in the lives of their living relatives. So while they are spirits, they can also manifest as animals, and I found it comforting to project my father's spirit onto the elegant white egrets that we saw on our walk. We saw a couple of egrets on our walk that morning. So we were in Kauai for 10 days, and each time I saw an egret, I would say, "Hi, Bob." I have witnesses. And then on our final day, as we drove toward the airport, I looked out the window, and in this glorious green field, there was a flock of 20 or 30 egrets sitting there. And as we drove by, they took flight. And I guess I just felt the spirit of my father protecting us on our journey. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Coleman. Let's center ourselves with a time of meditation. In the Buddhist tradition, the metta meditation invites us to focus our attention on our well-being, the well-being of those we know, and the well-being of all the others we have not even met. Today, we will do so in song. So if you will take out the teal hymnal. If you're in the front row, you may need to ask somebody behind you to pass you a teal hymnal. And turn to number 1031. You will find a hymn version, 1031, called Filled with Loving Kindness. Lorianne's going to play it through for us so you can hear it, and then we'll sing all 3 verses together. You're also welcome simply to hum or to bathe in the music of the meditation. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. Now you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. Thank you. Now we will continue this practice of contemplation. On the screen in a few moments, you will see an image of Bob's inner spirit, and we will share some music for contemplation. At the conclusion of the music, we will hold a few moments together in silence. May the force be with you. And also with you. We have a few community remembrances of Bob to share. Jan Morgan? Oh, there we go. Come on up, please. Thank you.
My name's Jan Morgan, and I was assistant principal at South High when both Laura and Coleman were there. Since Laura and Coleman were there, Bob and Leslie were there. You knew Leslie was there. Her effervescent personality made it clear. But you had to look for Bob, but he was most definitely there. When we were at South, LSAC, Local School Advisory Committee, was one of the ways parents became involved. It was kind of an under-the-radar, stealth-like group, and that's where I think Bob operated best. And hearing about the CIA thing today, I think that's very true. He didn't need or want the limelight. He wanted to make a difference. He didn't need, he wanted, and he did. Bob's intelligence and ability to see the big picture was an invaluable asset to public education. I specifically remember Bob holding our feet to the fire to make sure budgets were observed, but more importantly, that all students had equal opportunities. That leads to his involvement in the founding of Howard Street Charter School, which opened in 1997 and is still operating today. He was a founding member of that board and worked tirelessly to ensure that all students were given the chance to learn, that accommodations were in place for students who learned differently, and most importantly, that the core instruction of humanities helped to shape the curriculum there. He received the Founders Award from Howard Street in 2004. To this day, his legacy lives on both at South High and Howard Street. Bob Zeigen made a difference in education in Salem.
Delana and Russ Beaton.
Thank you. Our memories of Bob go back basically to two venues for me. First, he invited us to family gatherings at the Marco Polo, where we were, and I thank you for that now, always made to feel like family. And Bob wouldn't say a lot in those events. He'd sit there smiling, looking very much like Coleman looks today. But he would clearly be enjoying being the patriarch. These go back a long ways. Bob was barely in his 80s. But he would enjoy those community gatherings and family gatherings, and clearly, I remember very clearly his 90th birthday party. But the other event was Salem City Club, where we interacted with Bob and Leslie for many years. And the City Club program committee meetings were always raucous affairs because the task before us was to figure out what the community needed to hear to best thrive. And Bob had pretty strong feelings on that quite often, though in the exchange that would invariably go on, he wouldn't say a lot because the type A people who were on the City Club program committee really felt we had to solve the problem first, right there. But climate change, for instance, or the American medical system, polarization and the Oregon urban-rural divide, things like this. We would be busily engaged in solving that problem. And Bob finally would probably say, well, here's what you ought to do, and here's who you ought to get to speak. And then out of that raucous exchange would come a very valuable program for the community. Bob's role for a long time in the meetings was as the timer. We'd have a speaker, and Bob would have these colored cards. Yellow, you've got 30 seconds left. Red, you're done. I think that's a pretty good metaphor for Bob. You know, it's time to stop talking and get something done. But my final comment would be that he wouldn't say a lot very often, but when he did, it was worth listening to. And as I'm an economist, and we think in ratios, like dollars per hour, GNP per year, stuff like that. I would describe Bob this way. His ideas to words ratio was very high. We thank you for being involved, and Leslie, we love you.
Russ always dealt with Bob in larger settings, as he has described. When we met Bob and Leslie and Laura and Coleman, by a happy accident, I was the counselor at South Salem High School who had the part of the alphabet that included the Z's. So I inherited the kids, and hence Bob and Leslie. Bob was the ultimate gentleman at all times, in all settings, no matter what the challenges might be with either of the kids or with a faculty member or whatever was facing them at the time. He was always consistently calm, wise, gentle, kind, and considerate of all participants. It was wonderful to work with him, which I had the pleasure of doing for many years at school, and then again, as Russ indicated, in City Club. Russ and I are both past presidents of City Club. Bob was always right there to help with whatever we needed, whatever inputs, whatever research. He was simply, in my opinion, a wonderful citizen, a wonderful dad, apparently a wonderful husband, and an excellent friend. I'm grateful to have known him.
And we have one more remembrance from Kim Holman.
I was trying to remember how old my kids were when Leslie and Bob became surrogate grandparents for our kids. I know they were elementary. And Tim Holman, sitting here, my former husband, he went to work on her rental house because there was this one client one renter that she had that's like, no one works on my house except for Tim Holman. And so that's how Leslie met Tim. And so he came home one day and he's like, oh man, he goes, I love working with Leslie on these rentals and she really loves what I'm doing. And just, he really felt seen, and Tim is an amazing like use every bit of the space in a house and utilize it. Just amazing visualization. And so Leslie and him got along so well in all these rental houses that she did. Bob didn't do rentals. That was not his. Bob, this is mine. But he quietly, and I'm sure he had some guidance at times. So Tim kept coming home and saying she doesn't have grandchildren and she really wants grandchildren. And I'm like, well, tell her she can adopt our kids, because we've got 3 sets of grandparents, literally 3. 2 of them were pretty dysfunctional. We didn't want them to be around. And the other one just was traveling all the time, and they just weren't present to be grandparents. And so this one fateful day, and I don't remember the circumstances of it, Tim came home and said, oh my God, Leslie's devastated. It's so clear she'll never have grandkids. And so I was like, I'm not joking. Tell her she can adopt ours. We need grandparents. We have nobody being with our kids. So he went back and relayed the information, and I said, I'd been thinking about it, and I said, we're just going to start inviting them to birthdays. They've never missed one. And even on one of them, a long time ago, I think Eric was, how old? That birthday party where Leslie fell, early teen, and she fell on our steps going up because Bob stepped wrong and fell into Leslie, and it broke her arm and dislocated her shoulder. So she was like, I'm not going to the hospital. I only go to the hospital for giving birth. And I said, you're going to the hospital. So let me go back just a little bit. They started coming to birthday parties. And then pretty soon, I'm a massage therapist of 31 years, and pretty soon she started coming to me for her hand. Her thumb was hurting, and it's like, oh my God, my pain's gone. It was years before Bob would let me work on him. Years. But he did. And he was always so pleasantly surprised to have so much relief, and it's like, I had no idea I was in that much pain. And he just sat so quietly. And I really see when people's in pain, and the thing that Bob and I had in common is he has the kindness gene. It's my #1 value. And like Russ said, he was always steady, and Delana said kind. He was always kind no matter what. And I really appreciated that he modeled that for our kids. 3 kids, I would love for you to stand. I don't know if Timothy made it. Could you guys stand for me and Tim? Just so you see our children. And Christine's not here either. There she is. There's Christine. So Timothy had to work, and he's going to come when he can. But our 3 kids, Bob has always been there. And I remember in middle school, life happens with kids, as you know. And we had ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. And this time in middle school, the kids were kind of like okay to be alone, but not quite. And Leslie's like, Bob will come watch them. So Bob would pick the kids up. They did this for an entire year. Pick the kids up, bring them home, sit until one of us got home. He was amazing, and he just would sit in his kindness and his gentleness with the kids and be there, hold space, and they never misbehaved that I am aware of. And school shopping, oh my gosh, the lovely times as a grandparent to take our kids school shopping. And I remember the kids would come home, and it's like, well, Leslie's like, well, you need shoes, right? And Bob's like, oh my God, how much is this? No, I think they need a second pair of shoes. And so shoes and education, Bob and Leslie both supported our children so much. And children's educational theater, Leslie wasn't costuming for them anymore, but she sponsored not only my 3 kids, but also Chelsea, would you stand? And Lily, will you stand? Lily is Chelsea's my niece, and her daughter just graduated from high school, And that got Lily, thank you, got Lily really into CET, and you have gone on to South Salem and done so much in theater. Amazing. And it was because of Leslie and Bob sponsoring into CET. They did everything that a grandparent should do. And I am blessed that my daughter has the baby back there, is a year-old. I am a grandma for 1 year. And I'm sorry that you didn't get to have that your own, but I'm so grateful for Bob and Leslie's presence to show me what it is to be a good grandparent. And now that I'm a grandma and a great niece because she has the baby that's 2, so I'm technically the matriarch of the family now since my mom has passed, and in our biological family, and Leslie and Bob showed me how to do it. And I'm so grateful, so grateful. And you would think that I would know Laura and Coleman more, but I don't, but I do, because I heard all about everything that was happening. I knew when they got married. I met Mariah when she came, I think before the wedding and then after. And it's like, I know so much about you. Like, I feel like I know you, but we really haven't spent much time together. So it's been a pleasure. This week specifically, that I've really gotten to spend time with you guys. And thank you so much. And Mariah and Alan, you guys are amazing partners. Thank you for modeling again for me, right? I just am so grateful for Bob's presence. It was quiet, but very palpable. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all. We have also a letter to share. Bob wrote this in 1954 when he was 25 years old. A letter to his 12-year-old British stepdaughter, Jennifer, on the eve of her American citizenship. Bob wrote, "Dear Jenny, I just wanted to drop you a little personal note before you go up for your citizenship. First, let me say that the questions are not difficult. Just remain calm and there will be no problem. Second, I would like to say a few words on your becoming a citizen. You know that your mother and I deeply believe that there is one citizenship for all mankind, that everyone on earth belongs to one nation. Yet, while we believe so, we are still the citizens of a single country, and as such, we are bound to uphold that country's government as long as it continues to be just. I have underlined these words to stress a point that is in the Constitution, that people have the right to revolt against an evil government. You are growing up in a world, Jenny, where people will not always act like brothers to their fellow citizens of the world. In fact, these people may even seem evil, and some may get into government." This letter aged well. But before you condemn the whole government as evil, think quietly and weigh what is bad in government and what is good. I know you will find that no matter how bad things sometimes seem in our government, there is still much, much more good than evil. I know you may think that what I am writing has no meaning for you now, but as you grow older, you find you begin to think more of the things around you until one day you find you are thinking about your country and the world of which it is a part. Perhaps I can say it all simply thus. First, be a citizen of the world with all mankind as your brother. Then be a true citizen of your country. Don't be afraid to criticize its faults, but don't be too hasty in rejecting it if it appears all wrong. Stop, consider, and weigh all. Be quiet inside. Then and only then decide and act. What I have said in the last sentence is true of all of life. I guess this is so because everything we do is like dealing with a little world, a little country. Even when it is only a decision within yourself, it is like dealing with a little world. What is good? What is evil? And how should you act? As we hold these words, these stories, these memories, Laura and Coleman have prepared a slideshow of images from Bob's life for us to share together. We will also play this slideshow again in Hanneman Hall during our reception. So if the lighting is not as cooperative as we wish it would be, please know you will have a second chance to see these images. Each Sunday in this congregation, we sing a song of good wishes for those departing. Most often we sing it when the children and their teachers are going out to their RE sessions. But today we are going to sing this song for Bob, for his departure from this life among us. There are lyrics printed in your order of service. They are very simple. Wherever you walk, walk in love. Wherever you walk, walk in peace. Wherever you walk, walk in beauty all around you. Our heart goes with you. Wherever you walk, walk in love. Wherever you walk, walk in peace. Wherever you walk, walk in beauty all around you. Our heart goes with you. Wherever you walk, walk in love. Wherever you walk, walk in peace. Wherever you walk, walk in beauty all around you. Our heart goes with you. Thank you. Now, let us have tenderly in our minds and hearts Bob Zeigen, in whose memory we have gathered, having in mind the wonder and the mystery of his life, cherishing his generous impulses and his good deeds, remembering his struggles and remembering the strong and beautiful meanings of his life. We will go forth into the day carrying our memories of Bob, celebrating the time that we shared with him. Although his living presence is no longer among us, his memory will remain with us all our days. May we strive to be generous and kind with each other now and in all the days to come. In a moment, you will be invited to join us in Hanneman Hall, continue sharing memories of Bob and to share some of Bob's favorite foods. And as we go, we will share music from one of Bob's favorite movies as our recessional today.
I apologize for our technical difficulties here.
So as we go, take this as your assignment to watch Blazing Saddles this weekend.